last week on Dynamite, we got it was announced that Chris Jericho would be defending his Ring of Honor World Championship against a mystery opponent who is a former Ring of Honor champion. And it was revealed this week to be Colt Cabana. What did you think of this reveal? What do you think it means for the backstage area, morale, and what do you think it means for CM Punk?
So, let me preference this by saying that, honestly, in professional wrestling right now, from the two major companies, there's only three things I look forward to every week: Bray Wyatt, the Bloodline, and this ROH Open Challenge. Because to me, as somebody who's an old school ROH fan, it's cool to see who may potentially be wrestling Chris Jericho any given week. I'm interested in to see where this is going with the Ian Riccaboni thing. I think it's going to end up with Caprice Coleman, but that's just me. As far as
I didn't understand that.
what is going on right now?
Oh, are your ghosts acting back up?
Maybe. Jesus Christ, what the? All right, whatever. But as far as the opponent this week being Boom Boom Colt Cabana, I literally was a little overwhelmed with emotion when he came out. I'm not gonna lie, and I think he was too, and I think there was a lot of people in that building that were as well. And I also believe that that was a sign of what the investigation uncovered when it came to CM Punk. I think that was a sign of bridging the gap between AEW and Ring of Honor and moving forward into a better direction where we can put this fucking stupid ass childish bullshit in the past. And I think honestly it means that CM Punk's gonna have to call up that doofus son-in-law.
Well, for me, when I saw this, I kind of rolled my eyes a little bit. And let me preface this by saying I have no issues with Colt Cabana. I think he's a good wrestler, a really good wrestler. I'm not a fan of the comedy stuff necessarily. That's more of his shtick, but I've got no problem with him as a wrestler or a person. I don't know the guy. Enjoyed listening to his podcast many times. Because, obviously that CM Punk podcast, and I listened to a few others. But found him to be at least his public persona online. There's one issue on Twitch that some people have with him that he's apologized for, but he seems to be a good dude. And he was obviously emotional coming out for Dynamite. And for this main event match again for a world title on Dynamite, no less, on TBS. So it was definitely a big deal for him, and I'm not going to sit here and say it's not deserved. As far as we'll say politics around it, you could look at this from several different angles. Obviously, you took the tack that you think this means, well, obviously the investigation showed that Punk was 100% in the wrong, and they're, all right, screw that guy. We never want him back anyway.
I never said that. I didn't say that with this.
Okay.
You're putting words in my mouth right now.
Okay.
I just said it means that the investigation's over and they chose a side.
Right. Though the argument has been made, and I'm not saying I agree with this, the argument has been made they chose the side first, and then the investigation kind of went that way. But because they didn't interview certain people and this and that, and the one thing I say, don't bring back Punk, bring back the Elite. That's fine. I get it. Why are they still EVPs? Because the situation that was, the way that happened, Punk absolutely in the wrong, throwing a punch, Ace Steel biting people, absolutely in the wrong. There's no denying that. The Elite, whether they kicked down the door or they didn't, they probably didn't.
That's the only part that's disputable in this whole thing is whether or not that happened.
They shouldn't have gone to his locker room at all in that moment. I feel like That was a powder keg, and they should have known that. I don't know. I don't know. Even though, obviously, you could make the argument that CM Punk's like, hey, you know where my locker room's at. He had said that many times. If you've got an issue with me, come fucking talk to me.
Yeah.
So,
Well, can I just ask you a question as somebody who's been, both of us being in management at one point in time in our daily lives? You see an employee do something that's potentially dangerous for the company's long term. Whether it could be a financial issue, whether anything like that. Are you not immediately going to go talk to that employee?
sure. Well, of course. But you could argue, hey, you were Tony Khan there in the press conference. Why is he shaking his head in agreement with everything Punk's saying? Maybe he should have, you could argue, and the argument has been made, and I don't know. I'm trying to give the other side of the argument here from what is out there. I'm not saying it's true or accurate or right. But, Tony Khan's handling of this, I think we all can agree hasn't been perfect. Right.
Hell no.
But to me, they are, when you've got EVPs in the company that end up in a situation where they're potentially putting the company at risk of a lawsuit. That's where you got to step back and go, okay, well, all right, this can't happen. You're an officer in the company, and as such, you can't represent us this way. And aside from the fact of the quote inmates running the asylum, whether you want to say that or not about wrestlers being in charge of aspects of the promotion and in charge of certain creatives and all this stuff, that's a whole separate issue, but I think it ties into some of this. On the other hand, and this is leaned a little too much into the CM Punk stuff, though I guess it's sort of inevitable when we're talking about Colt Cabana right now. But, when it comes to the Colt Cabana, I truly believe, and we talked about this, the report came out that, this was because of morale. This was to help morale in the AEW locker room, and that everyone loved this decision. And I truly do believe that's why Tony Khan did this. Now, we know the Elite have been back in the locker room and have resumed their EVP duties backstage for the last couple of weeks. We also know Chris Jericho's, assumed a few more duties here. Do I think it's possible that they're the ones that came up with the idea, possibly as a dig at CM Punk, sort of with, and a little bit of spite at CM Punk, and sold it to Khan as a morale booster? I think that's possible. But again, I don't know the Elite either. I don't know how they are, how they think, how they operate. There have been rumors one way and the other. Obviously, they've got the majority of the locker room behind them, which is a positive sign for them. So, as far as Colt Cabana returning, it was a good match. It was a good moment for him. He got a big pop. And at the end of the day, I think that's all that matters.
So, in terms of the morality boost, or whether it was a dig at Punk, if you ask any long-time Ring of Honor fan, they will tell you that this championship has eluded Colt Cabana for so long. He's come close on so many different occasions that every time Colt Cabana's name and Ring of Honor championship is in the same sentence, fans literally start salivating. Whether or not it's a dig at Punk, there's cases to be made on both sides.
Did Colt win the championship? That was part of the lead up to this, right? That it was a former Ring of Honor champion.
No, it's any champion of anything. It could have been television, pure, tag team, not just ROH heavyweight champion. Anybody who's ever held a championship in Ring of Honor could potentially wrestle Chris Jericho.
I was pretty sure it was a former Ring of Honor world champion.
Because even Jericho said in his promo prior to It could have been tag.
Okay,
team,
he was a
television.
right Ring of Honor Tag Team Championship. Guess with who?
Yep.
2 times with CM Punk.
Yep.
But yeah, no, he was never Ring of Honor World Champion. You're right.
With that said, though, do you know, like when you beat cancer, they make you walk down the hallway and ring the bell because you beat cancer? Just because you cut cancer out of your body doesn't mean that that's good enough for morale in the back.
The preceding announcement has been paid for by Bomb Media Production.